Hey, best friend, no matter where you are, what time it is that you're listening to me, I just want you to know I'm glad we're hanging out. It is 2023 when I'm recording this, so it is a new year. And as we walk into a new year together, sometimes I think it gives this beautiful opportunity for us to do new things, for us to engage ourselves in new ways, and not the kind of way where it's like you make a promise to yourself that you don't keep, but a way that you begin to look at your identity, that you say, who am I? Who is this person that I look at, that when I see the mirror, they look back at me? Who are they? And one of the things that people ask me about that recently, even I had some people go, can you please talk about this? And you guys have heard me talk about it, at least in some aspect, which is femininity. But have you heard of this thing called feminine energy? Ever even wondered what it is? Like, is it how you dress? Is it a way that you interact with your partner? Is it some way, somehow that you carry yourself? Is it some woo-woo thing that women, right? It gets a little bit hairy. So I want to give you sort of my definition of what it means to be in your feminine energy, or what feminine energy is. It is the ability to stay connected with your core self and your core nature, and allow the creative, nurturing, sensual, playful, tender, authentic parts of you to be present. I'm just going to say that again for grins and giggles, because you're probably driving, you might have gotten distracted. Feminine energy is the ability to stay connected to your core self and your core nature, and allow the creative, nurturing, sensual, playful, tender, authentic parts of you to be present. All right. Now we're getting somewhere, friends. Now we're getting somewhere. So I want to be really clear before I start talking more about feminine energy. You and I both have both feminine and masculine energy. This isn't mutually exclusive. If you're a woman, you have feminine energy. If you're a man, you have masculine energy. This isn't about that. We all have all of it. It's just about when we engage in it, and really the part of us that is a lot more of our true nature. What I find with women, and this isn't true for all women, some women very much a masculine nature is their core, is really their core nature. But what I find is for most women, not all, but for most, their true nature is feminine. But with the world that we live in, they tend to live in more in a masculine energy. So I just want to ask you some questions. I want you to think about this. Like, when you get into a masculine energy, do you feel like you've been leading a lot, or that everything is your decision? Maybe it's really even that sort of boss CEO type space. Sometimes it's even just a lot of work. When I'm a boss. I have a business. I do things, but I know that I really get in a masculine energy when I have a lot to do. Because, and you'll hear me say this again, a masculine energy is very much a doing energy. Feminine energy is this beautiful being space. And so when you're thinking about that, women, when they are in a masculine and it's not their true nature, also stress does it. Like all the things, all the doing, I need to be in this place. We also, and this isn't a shot at a masculine energy. It's a lot more individualistic type focus energy, because it's doing, it's making it happen. I'm not saying masculine energy doesn't collaborate as a team, but women in a feminine energy anyways tend to be a lot more like, hey, what do you want to do? Where do you want to go? What would be really great for you? What would you like? It is a lot more of a collaborative energy. And I'm going to talk more about this. So women tend to get in a masculine energy when they're leading too much, when they feel like every decision is their decision, when they work a lot, when they feel stressed, when they're really self-focused, when they feel like they need to control. And by the way, this is just like a side note, that a healthy masculine energy doesn't control. A healthy masculine energy doesn't control. It leads. So that would be a very toxic. Control is a toxic form of a masculine energy. So I just want you to really think about this. We know as women, when we spend too long in our masculine, we get tired. Like, you may use words like exhausted. I'm exhausted. Irritated. If you got a partner, you're probably naggy. You're bored, probably. You're just bored. You might even be frustrated. And depending on where you live emotionally, you actually might really express yourself as angry. And if you're not going to be interested in sex, masculine energy will tank your desire as a woman. Now, that's very different for a man, for where his true nature is a masculine energy. But as a woman, it will tank your desire. So if you're like, I don't really ever want sex, you're probably living in a masculine energy. At least there could be some other culprits, which I'm not going to go down the list of culprits. Check out my desire episode. But I think it's so important, honestly, friend, for us to get a really good picture of who we are. What is my identity? Who am I truly? I hear sometimes women, especially women in the workplace, be like, yeah, I just have all this masculine energy. But there are all of these negative consequences as a result of their masculine energy. They actually think that that's who they are. But anyone that actually knows them, gets around them, knows like they're they're like a little love bug. They really care about you. They want to be close to you. But they can even be really playful. But the only time that comes out is with close, intimate friends, or you have to like get them completely disconnected from electronics and work calls and all of those things for a long time before it comes out. And so I think we just have to recognize and begin to ask ourselves this question: who am I really? And I had to ask myself this question a few times in my life. Several years ago, it was like, I am naturally, I'm so feminine, and yet I'm doing these things, I'm living this way, and it is taking from me. And it was also taking from my marriage, which was a clear picture to me that things needed to change. So let's talk about a little bit more about what a feminine energy looks like. It is a lot more internal focused than external. It looks inward. And I even think about emotionally, they can be expressed outward or they're inward, and we can recognize, oh, I have these things, or I'm thinking about these thoughts, and they're inward. They are internal rather than external. They are feeling. A feminine energy is feeling. A masculine energy is a thinking energy. It is very headspace. And this has nothing to do, I want to be very clear. This has nothing to do with intelligence when I say thinking or feeling. Women tend to be more feeling by nature. If you ask them, what would you like for dinner? A woman is probably going to say, I feel like we should have Chinese. I feel like Chinese. And a man would say, like, I think that we should have Chinese. They're both communicating the same thing, but one is like, oh, I sense in myself that this is what I would like, and a more masculine energy just says, I think I want this. Or if it's a leading masculine energy, it's like, absolutely, I think we should have Chinese. Again, not out of control, just different. So women also, especially when you're functioning well in your feminine, you follow your intuition. As a woman, I have learned that one of the most effective things is listening to my intuition. In fact, some of the decisions that I wish that I had made, or I'm talking to somebody or I'm doing something and I'm like, this is the quote unquote right thing to do. Like, I think even as a counselor or a coach, it's like, all right, this is what the manual would say. This is what I'm supposed to do. And intuition, my gut, my intuition would say, no, that's not the right thing. You need to ask this question. You need to do this thing. And every time I follow my intuition, it leads me to a good place because it's telling me a truth that I already know. So as women, and again, this is women focused. I'm talking to my ladies. I'm talking to my girls. I am hanging with my best friend. And unless you're my husband, you ain't my best friend. So I'm hanging with my best friend. And I'm telling you, girl, that when you listen to your intuition, when you listen to your gut, you get somewhere you want to be. And I bet that as I was talking about me, you were thinking about you going, yeah, I can think of a time that I haven't listened to my gut. I can think of a time when I wish that I had. My gut told me I shouldn't date that guy. My gut told me I needed to do this thing. My gut told me I needed to talk to my boss in this way, but I went this other route. My gut told me. Your intuition is a beautiful part of being a woman. In fact, it's why a lot of women bring their men to counseling, because they have what I call an internal smoke detector. And that smoke detector says, something is off in our home. Something is off in our home. No, I'm not maybe even quite sure what it is, but we're just not connected as we normally would be. I don't really know. And sometimes the masculine energy is very much like, what are you talking about? I've just had a lot on my plate, and she'll be like, yeah, but I just didn't feel close to you. And I know that Josh and I, my husband, have had these conversations. So feminine energy is more intuition and masculine energy is more logic. Women also really think about like, what am I attracted to? And not necessarily from a choosing a mate perspective, but like, what do I, today when I'm going to get dressed, what am I attracted to? What do I feel attracted in? What am I attracted to? What colors am I attracted to today? Whereas masculine energy is just going to assert, yeah, this is what I'm going to wear, and this is what I like, and so this is what we're going to do this thing. We're going to go eat here because I like this food. I'm going to choose this thing off the menu because I feel attracted. I see the picture. I feel attracted to it. And so just recognizing, again, that attraction place is a very feeling place. I mentioned this earlier also, but women tend to be more collective than individual. I love even that. It's a joke, that girls go to the bathroom together. It's like, hey, you want to go to the bathroom with me? It's not like you go in the same stall. But, on the way there, you might have conversation. If you're really close, you might have conversation, while you're in the potty. And then, while you're looking at the mirror, you're having conversation, you're checking your teeth, you're making sure that your outfit looks good, those sorts of things. Women have a collective energy. Again, even thinking about, would you like to do this? What will feel right for you? What do you think? Should we? And women have conversations and sort of come to an idea together, especially when we're functioning in a feminine energy. I understand that this might not show up as much in the workplace, and that would make sense because typically a workplace environment pulls out a more masculine energy. Women also tend to be more flexible. Now, I can imagine that there are some of you that are listening to this going, I am absolutely not flexible. I need to feel like I have control over everything. Well, then that is also functioning in a more masculine energy because that's rigid. And needing to have control also has to do with like not feeling like you have safety. Sometimes it has to do with the way that you grow up or fear or things like that. But when we as women feel like we need to control things, that will put us in a masculine energy because it is a doing energy rather than a being energy. I'm having to make sure somehow I stay safe, we stay safe, whatever it is. So just recognizing that there is this thing where
if we are controlling, it will move us out of our feminine energy. Something else with women, which I think is really neat, is there's this flow to who we are as women. We move, we flow with our emotions. Sometimes it can be higher or lower. We flow through rooms. If you are watching a woman who's truly practicing living in a feminine nature, you will watch her flow in conversation from person to person. And I'm not talking about introversion or extroversion, just the way that she's connecting, the flow in her life. There's no, she will allow herself a pace of, all right, I'm moving and I'm slowing down, and I'm moving and I'm slowing down. A masculine energy is a very go energy. It can even be aggressive. And I don't mean aggressive in like, I'm going to hurt you. I mean aggressive in pursuit of what it is that they want. Is a very go energy. And so recognizing that as women, we actually, in order to stay in our feminine, need to ebb and flow in our rest. We need to ebb and flow in our pursuits. I love how I just mix those words. You're my best friend, so you're hearing me mix words because, why not? So again, when we are functioning in a feminine nature, we rest, we move and we slow down, and we move and we slow down. That's why if you work in a high stress environment, you are living in a masculine energy. No harm, no foul, but you have to learn how to slow down. You have to learn how to rest. You have to learn to be creative. I think that's actually one of the most beautiful things to me about a feminine energy, is that it's creative. If you are visually looking at me, you are seeing a painting behind you that I did, because you can find me on YouTube. You would see a painting behind you or behind me that I did, and it is full of color and pinks and greens and yellows, and it's got just an explosion of color. And that is a part of my own personal, let me get into my feminine energy. Let me turn off my go. Because I've joked before that I am very much my father's daughter. My father's an entrepreneur. He makes stuff happen. My mom is awesome. So this has no bearing on what I'm saying about my mom. But I have that I have it in me to go, go, go. And in order for me to be really who I am, I have to flow. I have to slow, I have to rest, I have to allow the creative part of me to show up. Feminine energy, let me say it that way, feminine energy is a lot more focused on process. Masculine energy is focused on outcome. What's our outcome? What are we achieving? What are we doing? How are we making it happen? Which is important. And also, again, in a work environment, that outcome is going to show up. How are we making it happen? What are our goals? How are we achieving it? Whereas the process for a feminine energy is a lot more important. The process of cooking. I know women that really love to organize, or painting. The people are like, hey, I get asked this question actually with painting a lot is, do you have a picture of what it's going to look like? Do you know what it's going to look like? I'm like, absolutely not. Zero. It just comes together in the process of me choosing paints and going, I think this is what. Now, sometimes I might have a color palette in mind before I start, but I have zero clue what it's going to look like. And the process is the most exciting thing to me, because it's whatever is in me is coming out of me. So as you're thinking about this, friend, I want you to really recognize, am I operating in a feminine or am I operating in a masculine? Where am I living most of the time? And is that really true for me? And again, if you are tired, irritated, naggy, bored, frustrated, uninterested in sex, feeling like you're not creative anymore, you have parts of you that keep showing up that you just don't like, likely you are living in a masculine energy. You are in a doing place rather than a being. And sometimes when I say that to women, they're like, what does that even mean? Like a being energy? Am I just sitting on my bum, thinking about things. Like, I'm just being. Does that mean I'm meditating or I'm doing yoga or something like that? No. It means, though, that you are less focused on doing. So when we think about, let me give you an example. When we think about cooking, well, you're doing something, right? You are cooking. And you can either go through all of the steps of cooking like as fast as possible because you're hungry, you have a family that needs to eat, blah, blah, blah. You get the picture. But if you're in a feminine energy while you're cooking, you're going to smell things, you're going to taste things. You are really mindfully enjoying the process. You are being with what you are doing. There's a presence to it rather than focused on the doing, just making it happen. I want you to take even as you're listening to me, just take a really deep breath as you're thinking about, where am I living? As a woman, where am I living? Who am I being? And I really want you to consider this. And I know that what I'm about to say is probably going to be a controversial thing for me to say, but I'm going to say it anyways. A feminine energy actually desires to be led. A feminine energy actually desires to be led. I want you to just let that sink in. We thrive in it. We thrive in being led. This has nothing to do, though, with our ability to lead ourselves. I am very, very big on self-leadership, on taking ownership of myself, of my actions, of all of those things, because the only person that's responsible for me is me. But in relationship, we desire to be led. We just have to know that the one that is leading us is safe. And sometimes, ladies, I'm going to tell you the truth right now. And if you don't like it, well, we're best friends. So you can forgive me and we can still be friends. A lot of times we have gotten in relationship, we can get to this place where we have decided that the person that we're in relationship with. Okay. Ooh. All right. We have decided that the person that we're in relationship with isn't safe. So, or we don't trust them for whatever reason. They've let us down. They haven't kept their word, whatever it is. So then we step in to lead. And by the way, the more often, especially, and I'm talking about in relationship, the more often that you do that, the less opportunity your partner actually has to lead. I can't tell you how many times in the office when it'll be like, yeah, I really just want my guy to, I'm going to make something up. If he would just hug me every morning, I would feel so loved. And I've told him this over and over and over again, and he doesn't do it. And so finally, because they're working with me, he does it. He does it. He shows up. He loves her. He gives this warm embrace that she's so been hungry for. And what's she do? She goes, well, about time. Took you long enough. Had to pay X amount of dollars to go see a therapist to tell us for you to hug me. How hard is that? You know how fast it's going to shut him down? And by the way, he's still responsible for leading, but I'm not talking about him. I'm talking about you being in a feminine energy. That is still a masculine place of he gives you what you want and you're like, yeah, but there's more. Why couldn't you do the thing? And I might be in a toxic version. Whereas a feminine energy is going to take that embrace and just go, that feels so good. I love the way your arms feel around me. And by the way, mindfully present is a way to stay in a feminine energy, because a feminine energy, again, is nurturing, it's creative, it's paying attention to what's around us. Now, again, you could say, Brittany, my kids are exhausting and I have all these things going on. And you're talking to me oh, be present. Be present for 5 minutes. Be present for 10 minutes. When you're playing, in your the kinetic sand with your kid, Feel the sand, play with it with them, be in that, put your phone down. Don't be focused on what you need to do or making your to-do list, and be present for a period of time. I'm not saying every day, all the time, in all ways, but be present. Some of the ways to activate, by the way, your feminine energy, and I talk about this a lot in my Reclaiming You. Like, I'm giving you a overview, but in the Reclaiming You bootcamp, and the really Reclaiming You bootcamp, this is something that we talk about, and we'll talk about a lot, is ways to activate this. So I'm just going to give you a brief overview, which is like dancing. And I actually have a playlist. I'm going to put it in the show notes, but I have a playlist. Then, just for the record, some of those songs are, a little, might have some words or some sexual connotation to them, because also I want to activate my sensuality. So that's just my disclaimer if you choose to listen to it. And it's very purposeful. Sometimes I've had people listen to my playlist and they're like, oh, some of the songs in there are like really slow. Like when they think about getting in their feminine energy, sometimes they think about like salsa or really fast moving songs, because that really involves your hips. And I'm pro like whatever helps you get in your feminine energy. But I think one of the things that sometimes women really miss out on is the ability to move slow, and like letting your hips move slow. Because, by the way, feminine energy in terms of dancing is a lot more in your hips than it is your shoulders. If a song makes me move my shoulders or my head, like if I'm bobbing, then I'm like, nah, that's not it. I need something that's going to make my core, my hips, that move. I hear Shakira right now in my head, hips don't lie. Like, I need you to think about, as you listen to music, and you may create your own playlist, or you can take mine and listen to it, and you can hide songs or make them, hide them so you can't hear them, and really connect with the ones that feel right to you. And sometimes for me, it's even less about what the words are saying and a lot more about the music itself. So dancing is a big way to do that. Breathing, because breathing gets you into your body. Even walking, mindfully walking, not like, I tell people all the time, you need to turn off. We live in a world, by the way, of great information. I mean, you're listening to my podcast. I'm so grateful. But we live in a world of great information where people always have the radio on. They're always listening to something, an audiobook, whatever it is. We're growing. And by the way, I am one of those people. A lot of times I'm listening to things, but I challenge myself to turn it off, to get quiet with me. When's the last time you got quiet with you? And so when you're walking and you're thinking, and you can really be in this feminine place, even just swaying back and forth. I don't know if you've ever noticed a mom, but once you have been a mom, I feel like this happens. If you are ever holding something, like even when I hold my almost 4-year-old, I sway. I'm connecting with my body, and she might not even need me to quiet her, to calm her in that way, but it's like just this natural thing that happens. And so thinking about, even with dancing, like swaying back and forth, it's just getting in your body. And you've heard me mention this, but I'm going to say it explicitly. Focused presence on moving slower and mindfully enjoying whatever it is. If you live in America and you're listening to me, briefly, I have listeners that don't live in America. But if you live in America, we are such a fast-paced culture. We don't slow down typically and smell the roses and enjoy the things. And that's why, again, painting has been so great for me. It's a way that I might have some music on in the background, because still engaging my feminine in that way while I'm painting. It's like very body focused, which I love. That's why I paint really big paintings. But we live in this really fast-paced culture. We don't slow down. We don't enjoy it. Everything is the next. If you have little people, your little people are in all of these different things, and you're moving and you're doing all the things over and over and over and over and over, and we don't slow down. And it's like, how can I be mindfully present? And by the way, our phones get in the way so much of being mindfully present, because they help us mindlessly distract. And if you want to be in your feminine, you cannot be mindlessly distracted. You have to be mindfully present. I like that. I'm going to say that again. If you want to be in your feminine, you can't be mindlessly distracted. You have to be mindlessly present, mindfully present. There we go. To be mindfully present. Are you hearing me, friend? You have to be mindfully present. Put your phone down. If you needed a sign to be on your phone less, this is it. Be mindfully present. Mindfully. So I want to just encourage you. I want to wrap this up. I want to bring this home for you. Sis, you can be in your feminine. You can be in your feminine. You can be in your feminine. You can be in it. You can lead you into a place of play and of rest and of flow and connection. You can do that. You can do it. You're just going to have to make a mindful choice to come home or to do whatever to engage in that. I have a personal practice of turning off. And I do believe in my job, I actually get the opportunity to really engage in my feminine in my job, because it's, for me, there's a lot of intuition. There's another person, we're connected, those sorts of things. So I do get in my job, I get the opportunity to be in my feminine, but there are parts of my job, and I also teach, so I'm also a professor. There's grading and all the work and all the things, and with counseling there's notes and all the stuff, and so it is very easy to go into a masculine place of do. I've got all these other things to do. And I'm saying this to you because I have a practice of turning it off. I will listen to certain things. I will be quiet on the way home. I will get mindful. I walk in the door and I'm not carrying it. I'm not bossing or nagging or feeling like I need to lead as I come home. And that is a beautiful part of even my own personal practice of getting into my feminine nature. So, as per our usual, because if we were having a conversation, I would ask you questions because I want to know about you. So, I want to ask you some questions. If your masculine is showing up, where and how? If your masculine is showing up, where and how? Are any of the negative traits of masculinity showing up, or of over masculinity? Are any of the traits, the negative traits of over masculinity showing up? What do you need to do about it today? Not tomorrow. Friend, between me and you, tomorrow never comes. So what do you need to do about it today? And then I really want you to think about, how do I express myself as a woman? How do I express myself as a woman? How do I express my feminine nature? Where can I do that? My feminine energy. How do I express myself in my feminine energy? So, friend, it was awesome to hang out with you. It was awesome to be connected to you. I wish I could see you, hug you, squeeze you, because we're best friends. That's really important. So I just want you to know that I have that longing to see your face. Maybe someday I will do live podcasts. That would be so cool. Anywho, I want to encourage you, if you're still listening to me at this point, and you're and this episode connected to you, I want you to just stay tuned and listen to the next thing that's going to follow, because I care about you. I want you to live in your best identity. I want you to feel like you are walking out who you truly are. So again, best friend, great to hang out with you. I will see or hear you, squeeze you. Come find me on social media, by the way. Come find me on social media so we can interact and connect. That way I can see you on another day. Later, best friend.